They've changed that. It used to be a lady counting down saying three, two, one. But, well, welcome this morning to the Writing Lab for English 10. This one we'll be talking about the poetry that you've been reading. And so I want to welcome Amaya and Cheyenne and Peyton. And let me double check and make sure nobody else has popped in. Nope, all the rest are me. So this is actually what you're going to be doing. This is the writing that we're looking at. Your challenge in this assignment is to create your own prose poem about a person you know. Think of a special moment you shared with someone close to you. In order to truly capture that moment accurately for the reader, you'll be using the poetic devices described in this module. Read the instructions for describing a person on pages 540 and 544. So if you have your textbook, go ahead and let's look there now, just so that we know what we're looking at. And there's a lot of different ways to do this. So let's take a look at the sample that's on 543. This is Samir of the Kingdom of Jordan. Last summer, my father's brother, Samir, immigrated to the United States. Samir had lived his whole life in Amman, Jordan, and he spent his last 11 years there practicing dentistry. Because my father had immigrated to America before I was born, I had never met my uncle before. He is currently living in our house while he was looking for a place of his own. Getting to know him, I have found that from top to bottom, Uncle Samir is all pride and respect. Uncle Samir is 45 years old with a mass of tangled dark brown hair with some gray that looks more like a bird's nest than a head of hair. He told me one morning, "This hair isn't possible. The harder I try to tame it, the worse it fights back." I think he is proud that his hair has as much spirit as he does. His eyes really seem to smile. They are shockingly blue, deeper than any eyes I have ever seen. They are certainly unique for our family, who all have brown eyes. When Uncle Samir speaks to you, he always looks you in the eye, which makes you feel that what you have to say is very important to him and draws your respect, too. Since Uncle Samir came to stay, I've rarely seen him without a smile beneath his well-groomed mustache. He often emphasizes what he says with sweeping flourishes of his graceful hands. When he is in the shower or when he is cooking, you can hear Uncle Samir singing in Arabic with a voice like a great opera star, low, loud, and clear. Next page. I do not always know what he is singing about, but his voice is emotionally stirring. My uncle stands tall and walks with a confident stride. He is more physically fit than my father, who is actually the younger of the two brothers. He says that physical fitness is the fastest way to mental fitness. My father and he work out regularly at the community center, or as Uncle Samir says, I work out. Your father tries to catch up. It's hard for me to imagine my uncle at the community center because I have never seen Uncle Samir dressed in a t-shirt and shorts, or even blue jeans. Each morning when I wake up, he is already wearing freshly pressed clothing. His slacks always have a sharp crease, and he's never without his tie, even at the dinner table, which is unusual for my family. Though immaculate looking, his clothes do always smell like a dentist's office. I guess that's just one of the downsides to being a dentist. When your eyes travel down Uncle Samir from head to toe, the journey ends with his shoes shining with a clean, dark black radiance. He takes great care each day that these shoes are shiny enough he can see himself in them. Those tiny shoes are the ultimate contrast to his hurricane of hair. If I could describe my uncle in 2 words, they would be proud and respectful. I have only known him for a short time, but in that time I've come to truly admire him. You can sense that Uncle Samir is a quality person by the way he stands, walks, dresses, and talks. He has pride in who he is, where he's come from, what he's going in life. I hope some of that will rub off on me as we get to know each other better in the future. So what jumps out at you? What are you noticing about this particular poem? It is a prose poem, Although it's also a narrative essay, but have you spotted any of the poetic devices in it?
Kind of the way that he describes his uncle, like he describes him as this well man, and his
Right.
well groomed and never his desk and everything, but last that it's actually desk is, just like the fancy type writing.
Right. And that device, Maya, do you know which device that is, since you went through that first part with us? What is it when you're using very specific words in a specific way to create the image?
I don't know.
Okay. Either of you happen to know? It's the use of specific words in a specific way. We're going to go through them in just a moment, but I'll give it to you. It's diction. So that's what diction is. Diction is when you're using words in such a way, the order of them and the vocabulary that you choose makes a kind of emotion or tone that goes along with it. Usually we don't talk with fancy diction like that. One example I can give you is Yoda. Yoda always speaks in a different kind of diction. And so that's why it almost sounds like he is speaking in poem all the time. And it's because his word order is switched. He does his verb first and his subject second. So, train you we will. That's known as diction. Now, I will tell you this. This is really long. And it doesn't have as much poetic devices as I would like to see you have. There's quite a few similes. I think there's even, do you remember what simile is? Right, that's the one that uses like or as. Can you spot any in this document? Look at the second paragraph.
I think he was proud that his hair has as much spirit as he does.
His hair has as much spirit as he does. That's a good one, yes. I was actually looking a little higher, but that one works. But there's one like 3 lines above.
The master thing with those brown hairs for somebody that looks more like a person.
That's the one, yes. So the author has used simile, diction. There's a couple others in here as well. When after we've gone through and reviewed the different devices, I'm going to make this a little shorter for you. You can write as many paragraphs as you wish, although if it goes beyond 90 pages, I might not grade it all. If even just half of this would be what I was looking for. Really, the goal of this is, can you use the same type of devices in your own writing to make something really descriptive? So that's what we're going to be looking at this morning. So the first thing we want to do is review the different concepts, and hopefully you guys got these first semester so that you can, this will be a no-brainer for you. Do you guys remember what imagery is? What specifically is imagery? Right, because it literally puts an image in your head. Now the thing is, it goes beyond sight. It's all 5 of the senses. So sight, touch, this is slower than I want, taste, smell, and hearing or sound. Um, I love, especially in poems or writings where you kind of switch the senses. I think one of my favorite lines from Ghostbusters is, "Listen, do you smell something?" I've always loved that one. But it's when you mix those kinds of images, it's doing things in your brain. It's causing these little synaptic bursts that create a unique experience or response to it. Um, if we look back at the Samir description, do you notice any imagery in this? Anything that makes you see it, feel it, taste it, smell it, or hear it? There's quite a bit you can see, I think. What can you see? What are some images that you can see in your head because it's been described this way?
And stands tall and walks with a confident stride.
Very good. Yeah. And it requires you to kind of have an experience where you've seen somebody walk like that. So it's definitely tapping into that sense. Is there any sound imagery?
When you sing,
Yep. He's singing at the bottom of 543 while he's cooking. And cooking can also give you a sense of what? Yes. So the more that you can put in there in your description, the better. And so imagery is a real important device to use. And as you'll find out, it's not just about fiction writing or poetry, but as we get into other writings, even academic writing, imagery is still important because the more you can involve your reader's senses, the more that they can connect to your writing. Let's look at another poem here. This is called "Who Has Seen the Wind?" Who has seen the wind? Neither I nor you. But when the leaves hang trembling, the wind is passing through. Who has seen the wind? Neither you nor I. But when the trees bow down their heads, the wind is passing by. So what of the five senses do you find in this poem?
sound,
Sight, definitely. Where is sight?
the three bodies in the head.
Yes, definitely. Because you can see in your head what that would look like. Any other senses? Even with the trees bowing down their heads, Not that is a sight image, but it could be one other image. What do you think it would be? In the poem, what causes trees to bow down their heads? Hmm? Now you can't see the wind, but you can what? Feel it, right? This is also a touch sense because you've bowed your head before too. In fact, the other device is personification because you've got trees doing an action that people do. So there's all kinds of things with this line going on. You could even, there are those who would say, well, I can smell something because of the trees. I've been to the sequoias up north, and when the wind is passing through and you see the trees, you can also smell them because the pine is just getting dispersed. So that's fine too. The great thing about poetry is you bring your own experience to it. And so any answer works because it works for you. Okay. Figurative language. So there's several things under this category of figurative language devices. Simile, we've already talked about, where you have the comparison of two unlike things using like or as. Metaphor is the same thing, but there is no like or as. Do you guys have a special way that you can figure those two out, or do you get them mixed up? You don't? Good. Mamaya, do you get these mixed up?
Sometimes I do.
Okay, the easiest way I remember it is simile, same. Same is like or as. So that's where the like or as comes from. Metaphor is not, there's no S. I don't know if that will help or not, but that's how I do it.
Mm-hmm.
Even after I've been teaching for 30 years, I still have to tell myself simile, same, like or as. Allusion. You remember what this is?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Yes. I like how Maya's looking at her notes. She's great.
I have, it's a reference to a historical figure or significance.
Right. Somewhere along the line, the poet or the author has expected you to know about something previously in literature, or art, or history, something that everybody knows about that's in kind of the common era. So if you're saying, well, he's a real Romeo, what do you have to know about in order to understand that allusion? A Romeo and Juliet. And so we know he's the great lover, and although I never figured him that, I think he's just a impulsive kid. But then again, anyway, so the allusion is something that refers to something that's happened in the past. The only one that you guys saw, and that was the Descartes reference. I forget exactly which poem that was, but Descartes was a philosopher, and so he's known for his philosophy. I personally have never read that, to my knowledge, I've read anything from Descartes. I've seen a few of his quotes, but I've never read it. So whenever the person's writing, they have to make sure that the other people, the people they expect to read their work, understand what those references mean. Hyperbole. Who remembers what that one is? Do you know what it is in math? Do you remember what it is in math? What's hyperbole? A hyperbole. At least you recognize it, though.
Repetition of a certain sound or
No, not hyperbole. What you're talking about can be either alliteration, assonance, or consonants, and we'll go over those. The hyperbole in math is the curve that goes on infinitely. So you've got the point on the line, and then the two go infinitely onward. Hyperbole is related in that it means something so outrageous, so out there, it can't possibly be true. She was the most beautiful woman in the entire world. That's hyperbole. You even have a little bit, well, I'm not sure if this would be really considered hyperbole. If you look back at the Samir writing on 543 in the third paragraph, his eyes really seem to smile, not that part. What part is that? What device is that? If his eyes seem to smile. Personification. They are shockingly blue, deeper than any eyes I have ever seen. That possibly is hyperbole, but it could also be true because maybe this person hasn't seen very many eyes in their lifetime. And how can something be that deep blue? So hyperbole is another device that probably will show up in one of these descriptions. Because when a person means a lot to you, you're gonna kind of go overboard in describing them. Onomatopoeia. Now this one, I think most people remember this because it's a great word to say, and they teach it to you like 6th or 7th grade, and you love saying it. I think because it has P in it. I don't know. What's onomatopoeia?
The same letter in the word. Is that
Nope. That's a sound device too. Meow. Moo. The sound. The word of the sound. Yeah. Bang. Splash. Any of those where the sound is, the word is the sound. Personification we've already talked about. Applying people characteristics to non-living or inanimate objects. There is a difference, by the way, on that personification when we're talking about animals. If it's an animal, it's called anthropomorphism. You don't have to know that right now. But just don't identify it. So if you're talking about someone with their cat-like abilities, like her cat eyes reflect in the darkness. Now you're talking about anthropomorphism. Okay. Tone and diction. I think I've got diction in there. Yeah. Tone and diction. The difference between the two, tone is the single word. So if you have something where you use red, angry, dangerous, fiery, those create a certain tone. Doesn't sound like we're going to go to the circus and play with clowns. It sounds more ominous. Diction, however, is the order in which those words occur. So the red hot heat of the night melted in the darkness. Nobody talks like that. Nobody in regular conversation would go up and say something like that. So it's how the words are used in the word order that makes diction. Okay, so let's see if we can find a few, not too many. We don't need to do this a whole hour, but this is called The Visitor by Rachel Field. I'll go ahead and read it because it's kind of tiny on your screen. Feather-footed and swift as a mouse, an elfin gentleman came to our house, knocked his wee brown knuckles upon our door, bowed till his peaked cap swept the floor. His shiny eyes blinked right at me, and as he asked for bread and a sup of tea, "A plenty of honey, please," he said, "for I'm fond of honey on my bread." Cross-legged he sat, with never a word, but the old black kettle sang like a bird. The red geranium burst in bloom, and the blaze of firelight in the room. The china rattled on every shelf, and the broom danced merrily all by itself. Quick to the pantry then I ran, for to serve that elfin gentleman. I brewed him tea, I brought him bread, with clover honey thickly spread. One sip he took, one elfin bite, but his ears they twitched with sheer delight. He smacked his lips and he smiled at me. "May good luck follow you, child," said he. He circled me round like a gay green flame. Before he was off away, he came, leaving me there in the kitchen dim, sighing and staring after him, with the fire low and the tea grown cold, and the moon through the window sharp and old. Only before me, instead of honey, that bread was golden with thick spread money. Now that's a fun one. Okay, figurative language. If you go back to that list, so you may want to, I don't know how we can bounce back and forth here, but what figurative language do you see?
Transportation.
Where?
When it says entering dance.
Very good. Yes. Broom danced merrily. What else do you see? What about diction? You see what is there an example of diction that kind of gives you a feel in the poem? Or tone? What are the kind of words that kind of set up the tone? There's quite a bit of Yoda speaking here. A lot of it has to do with the rhyming that needs to happen, but it's still a different way of speaking.
He circled me round.
He circled me round, yes. Very good. People don't talk like that in normal speech. Cross-legged, he sat. I could hear Yoda saying that for sure. That kind of it's known as whimsical. Whimsical is fun because it's different. You also have the tone that's coming out. It sounds almost Irish, kind of the way the wee brown knuckles upon the floor. His cat, uh, merrily, elfin. These are kind of good luck follow you. So the tone there is very fun and sprightly. So it's both figuratively and literally about a sprite. What else? Do you have any similes or metaphors in this? Very good. So that's actually both there, isn't it? First one is a what? Feather-footed. Well, the comparison without like or as, metaphor, but swift as a mouse, simile, right. So a lot of good figurative language there. Now let's get into the sound devices, and I know that throws people off because there's several of them, and you're not quite sure what is this supposed to be doing. First of all, I want to talk about rhyme, though. So how does rhyme affect a poem? This is The Walrus and the Carpenter, just a little piece of it. The sun was shining on the sea, shining with all its might. He did his very best to make the billows smooth and bright. This was odd, because it was the middle of the night. So what effect does the rhyme have there, specifically on this poem? The flowing actually comes partly from that, but it also comes from what we call the scansion. And that's the college term for it, so you don't need to know about it right now. But the flow also comes from the sounds. If we look at, I've got another poem here. This one has no rhyme to it. Curtains forcing their will against the wind, children sleep, exchanging dreams with seraphim. The city drags itself away on subway straps, and I, an alarm, awake as a rumor of war lies stretching into dawn, unasked and unneeded. So this is without rhyme, with rhyme. I will tell you that they have basically the same devices sound-wise. It's just the rhyme that is absent from the second poem.
Rhyme makes the poem like flow smoother in a way.
Smoother. Okay. So, and I think the way you're referring to is that it kind of, if people have OCD, they probably don't like poems that don't rhyme, right? It's a balance. It gives it a balance. I also saw a lot of people commenting that it makes the reader anticipate more. Would you agree with that? No? I think it's more of a recognition, and I find it whimsical. It's either going to be whimsical or it's going to be annoying. For example, Edgar Allan Poe's The Raven. Who had to memorize that in 7th or 8th grade? Anybody have to memorize that one? Good. They used to have everybody memorize it. Just like you did a mission in 4th grade, you had to memorize The Raven in 7th grade. And it's an annoying poem. Once upon a midnight weary, while I ponder weak and weary. That's annoying. So it's either going to cause tension or it's going to kind of give you that fun feeling. Now, let me go. Hey, I don't have a slide with the sound device. Where did my slide with the sound devices go? I'm going to have to make one right now. So let me put in here sound devices. And do you guys remember what they're called? There's three of, rhyme is one of them. We'll just put rhyme at the top because we know that has to be there, but it doesn't have to rhyme. No. Okay. Where's my rest of them? Okay. Let's put it here. Okay, so we've got rhyme. And the rhyme is when what happens? How do you define rhyme? When things rhyme, what are the things that rhyme? Similar what? So like glove and mitt are the same? Are they rhyming? What is it that rhymes in a rhyme?
The ends of words.
Ends of words. Ends of words, and usually at the end of a line. Okay. Now, rhythm is another one that's the difference between the raven and the walrus and the carpenter. It's how the sounds are being put together. Have you heard of the phrase iambic pentameter? It should have come up when you did Romeo and Juliet. You've heard it. You haven't, Cheyenne?
I don't remember.
You don't remember it. It's familiar, but you don't remember exactly what it is. Do you remember, Amaya, when we did Romeo and Juliet last year?
Yeah.
Do you have an example, or do you know, can you make the sounds?
I can't think of any right now.
Okay. The reason you heard about it in Romeo and Juliet is because he wrote a lot in iambic pentameter. He would write for the main characters and often the rich, important characters. He gave them this format. To be or not to be, that is the question. Nobody says it like that, but because the lines are specifically with stressed and unstressed, so an I am is da da da, low stress to high stress. Then you got 5 sets of them. Da 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 da. There's other ones called, the one's a trochee. I think the opposite of the I am is a trochee, so it's stressed, unstressed. That's what happens, and that's where the flow comes in. That's actually what creates the flow. Okay. Now, the other 3. One of them's fairly common. What's the one that we apply to tongue twisters? That's the one. So the alliteration. How do you define that? Yep. Same sound at the beginning. And actually, yeah, they can be either vowel or consonant. So she sells seashells by the seashore, you got the S, or my favorite Dr. Seuss book was always the ABC book because I loved Aunt Allie's Alligator, AAA. So it can be that one. The other 2 are consonants and assonants. So consonants. Which sounds are the same? I'll give you the easy one first. The reason this is they're kind of the equal. We're talking about the difference between vowel or consonant. So which one would be which?
Consonant.
Yep. That's why it sort of is even. Consonant, that one. Whereas the assonants would be vowel. Okay. So these are all the different devices that cause sound devices. Now, the purpose of creating the sound devices is to give beyond the word the feeling in it. So let's go back to the walrus and the carpenter. Okay. The sun was shining on the sea, shining with all his might. What sound seems to be constantly repeating? Yes. And there's 2 different S's you have to look at here. So it's not the letters you're looking at, it's the sounds that you're listening for. Sun, sea, his. Then you've got the, was, forgot was. Although it also depends on how you're pronouncing it. Are you pronouncing it was, or are you pronouncing it was? And then you have shining, shining. Now that one, I left that off of our list. If the shining's in 2 different places, what's that device called? Repetition, right. Billows, smooth, all of the S's. And some what effect does that have on the listener if they're reading the poem, hearing the poem read to them? Yes. Why do we go shh to a baby? Because it's calming, right. And so with the walrus and the carpenter, this is also kind of, it's calming, it's soothing, and it's also mimicking ocean waves. That's what it's supposed to be doing. Let's look back at Maya Angelou's poem. What sound do you hear rereading this poem? I'll read it again aloud for you because I think you really have to hear it. The thing with sound devices is gotta use your ears. Curtains forcing their will against the wind, children sleep, exchanging dreams with seraphim. The city drags itself awake on subway straps, and I, an alarm, awake as a rumor of war lies stretching into dawn, unasked and unheeded. What did you hear a lot of repetition on? C sound? The hard C or the soft C? The hard? Okay. Where are the hard C's? Curtains. Which one? Forcing. Now that's the S. So you have so this is what I was saying about the letters. You have two different sounds there. And force. Now I do hear a lot more of the S in sleep, dreams, city, seraphim, drag. Now the drag, again, it depends on your pronunciation. Drags or drags. So again, the has the same kind of effect, calming. The first part of that is sort of calming. There's another consonant sound that I hear repeated a lot. Normally, it looks a lot there. It's repeated a lot at the end of the line, but it's not a rhyme. Just look at the first 4 lines. There's quite a few of these. Curtains forcing their will against the wind, children sleep, exchanging dreams with seraphim. What did you hear, Maya?
The W.
Yes. Will, with, wake, subway, war. Think about the sound of the W. Wah, wah, wah. What does that do to you? What do you feel? What? What? What do you want? Where? Why?
Like whining.
It's a whining, kind of a struggling, kind of like it's pulling you. That it stretches out. Honestly, it sounds like this person does not want to wake up. Who would want to wake up here? So that adds kind of to the feel of it. You know what that feels like. Time to wake up, get out of bed, that alarm goes off, and it's the last thing you want to do. Yeah, there you go. So, I mean, if your body is not ready to wake up, you're not going to have an easy time doing it if an alarm wakes you up. So that's what's meant by the sound devices. That that inside the author has used same similar sounds and words in order to create kind of an underlying feeling or emotion. That's what you're looking for in the sound devices. Let's see here. Okay, now, are there any questions about any of the devices themselves? Are you kind of clear on what the different devices are? Remember that figurative language has a what under them? It's a big umbrella. The other two categories are the imagery and sound devices. So it's imagery, figurative language, sound devices. Any questions on those? Okay, so what you want to do, we're going to look at the model. Actually, let's start with 540. Now, the instructions are here. They are a lot more detailed than I'm expecting for this. So your model is kind of like way up in the stratosphere of what you're reaching for. But you want to choose, first of all, you want to choose a subject that you know personally. People in the past have tried to do things on famous people, and then they go to Wikipedia to find out about them, and then I get a report on, Dwayne Johnson or whoever. That's not what you want to do. You want to pick a moment with somebody you know who's very special to you. And you're going to create a prose poem in the form of a narrative. The narrative essay is easy, because what do narrative essays do? And tell a story. Yeah. Describe something and tell a story. The best thing about stories is that they're easy to organize. They have a beginning, a middle, and an end. You do want to have a title. The reason I want to encourage you to start having titles is that a title is always a clue to the main idea of anything you write. And so it helps to clarify what the claim is going to be. In this case, it's the controlling event. And so it could be like, the graduation day, or it could be the day we met, something like that. And then I gave you the example in 1.6.1. I gave you the sample of just the details I was trying to put together with my husband, and you guys created one about somebody. And there's some really good ones out there where you're getting some devices in there that you want to fold into this narrative that you're creating. And so you want, on page 541, it shows you that you want sensory details. So again, it's sight, sound, touch, taste, feeling. Wait, touch. Hold on. I always lose the fifth one. Whatever order I start in, I always lose the fifth one. What are they? Help me out here.
Sight, feeling, touch, smell.
Thank you. I wish I could do it like you. I can never, ever. I've been teaching a long time. It's never happened. Okay, so the sensory details. Now, factual details, they help in terms of the story. You don't need many. Stephen King described it this way. Picture in your mind a table, and on that table there's a red tablecloth. And then on the table, with the red tablecloth, there is a cage. And in that cage is a white bunny rabbit. And the white bunny rabbit has a blue circle painted on it with the number 8 in the middle. Now, if I put that out there and you guys could take the picture in your head and put it on the table, would it be the same? It wouldn't. Because what kind of red? Cherry red, fire engine red, burgundy red, blood red, doesn't matter. Well, Stephen King said it'd probably be blood red. But you don't need that. You don't need that extra detail. Because what happens is the person's going to put in their mind, they're going to create themselves using the different little clues. So you want just enough clues, like in the Samir one, the eyes that are deep blue, the shockingly blue, deeper than any eyes they've ever seen. Well, my husband has those kind of eyes. The only problem is if he's wearing anything but blue, they don't come out as blue. If he wears blue, they do. And you'll notice the well-groomed mustache, the standing very tall. Those are all the specific details that are factual details. At the same time, they can still be poetic. You do want some figurative language in there, so similes, metaphors, personification, any of those. And then the details of thoughts and feelings, that one I'm counting as the sound device. So if you're able to use a little bit of alliteration or, especially within the moment, you're describing the moment, if you can try and put similar sounds that kind of help develop that, that would be really cool. So you get the title. Your introduction or controlling event is just beginning, you're like, here's you don't want to give away the ending, but it's like, here's the story of, or this you get to be creative with. This is probably one of the few creative writing assignments you get, so hopefully you like a little bit of creative writing. And again, the only way you need to organize the whole event, what happened in the beginning, the middle, and the end. So 2 to 3 nice-sized body paragraphs, and then your conclusion. You can look at the model that you've been given. Again, I've told you that you don't have to write the 2 pages. There's like 8 paragraphs, I think, in this. I'm expecting a minimum of 4. That's it. Here's one. Now, this is kind of on the short side, and it's not technically about an event, but this is another prose poem called The Morning Coffee. Morning coffee. I'm not sure why I drink it. Maybe it's the ritual of the cup, the spoon, the hot water, the milk, and the little heap of brown grit. The way they come together to form a nail I can hang the day on. It's something to do between being asleep and being awake. Surely there's something better to do, though, than to drink a cup of instant coffee, such as meditate. About what? About having a cup of coffee. A cup of coffee whose first drink is too hot and whose last drink is too cool, but whose many in-between drinks are like baby bear's porridge. Just right. Papa Bear looks disgruntled. He removes his spectacles and swivels his eyes onto the cup that sits before Baby Bear, and then, after a discreet cough, reaches over and picks it up. Baby Bear doesn't understand this disruption of the morning routine. Papa Bear brings the cup close to his face and peers at it intently. The cup shatters in his paw, explodes actually, sending fragments and brown liquid all over the room. In a way, it's good that Mama Bear isn't there. Better that she rest in her grave beyond the garden, unaware of what has happened to the world. I love that poem. Do you get the ending? Because the ending kind of gives you a whole bunch of other information. First of all, are we talking about real bears here? No. We are talking about a man and a child. What happened to Mama Bear? What happened to Mom? She's dead. In her grave beyond the garden. So now we know. I'm not sure why I drink it. Why do you think he drinks it? Yeah. Way of grieving, a way of kind of maybe even isolating from pushing the grief away. That's why I love the poem. It just takes one sentence and the whole thing changes. This is, so this would be kind of the minimalist example of what I'm looking for. This is way at the top of the range. You get to write anything in between. So remember that this is a prose poem. You're not writing this in poetic form. You're writing this in paragraphs. The other students, the ones who were started from the beginning, have already written a poem. You're welcome to write a poem and turn it in at that one, but this one I want it to be a narrative essay about an event of someone special. So you need to use a mixture of poetic devices with it. Okay. So here are the due dates. You actually have, you guys kind of lucked out because we had to move the date of this. So I'm not actually going to have it due. Technically it's due tomorrow because it's Friday, it's the end of the week. But I always give the weekends. So you actually have through the weekend if you want to use it, up until 11:59 p.m. Then the very next minute, Canvas is going to take all the essays that have come in and it's going to randomly assign your essay to somebody else. You are not trading essays. So Cheyenne, your paper may go to Peyton, but you're not going to get hit. So what you want to do is make sure you have that in. If it is turned in late, you'll get the 15% deduction because you won't be able to do the peer review. The peer review is how I measure listening and speaking. I know it's kind of silly that way, but it's how you're interacting with another student that is part of the skills that I'm looking at. So you'll get that Monday morning when you wake up, and I'll show you in a minute how to find it, and then you need to turn in the peer review before 11:59 because the other person's waiting for your feedback. Now, I'll be giving feedback too, but you want to make sure so that everybody knows that the peer reviews should be in by Monday night, so that Tuesday when they want to come in and do the revision, they have your feedback to look at. Okay. This is the tricky part, and I know there will be questions, and I don't know where to find it. So I want to make sure that you have. In fact, I think no, I guess I didn't make that link. Okay. You know how when you submit an assignment in Canvas and it says success, you have completed this assignment, and it gives you the timestamp. Okay. Go back to that page where you see that because that's one of the places that they post the peer review. You will see somebody else's name and it's hyperlinked. You click on that link and it's going to take you to a speed grader page. So let me show you what a speed grader page looks like. So, the other place you might see it is, I'm not even going to tell you because I don't want you going there. It's another one of those where you have, if you're on list view, you'll see it, but I don't want you in list view. I want you in the card view. So you get a window. When you click on it, you get a window, and there's yours. I don't want to show yours right now. Okay, but you see how there was an essay in there, and so it'll be a little different here. This is the box I want you to look for. The add a comment is where you're going to do the following. So you've got that open. Then you go to the peer review, which is 172. And the instructions are telling you that you are going to create a new Google Doc, and then look at page 545 in your text. You see those questions where it says guidelines describing a person? There are the 6 questions. Does the introduction contain a statement of the controlling impression? Now, all that means is, do we know who the person's going to be describing and what the event is about? That's all you really need to know. Are body details arranged logically in order, blah, blah, blah. So you've got your 6 questions there, and then there's specific tips. So what you want to do is take that person's essay and make a copy. This video here shows you how to make a copy, but it's pretty simple. You just go up to the top of the Google Doc and under File, make a copy. Once you do that, make sure that you retitle it Peer Review of, and then whoever your partner is, you put that name in. If you do not turn it in on time, you do this all for your own paper. Self-review would be a good title for that. Then you can do what they suggest that you do. Bracket the sentence in the introduction that expresses the thoughts of or feelings on the subject. Number the details. Label the sensory detail. You can do this by highlighting or circling. I have seen people, the freshmen did something similar, and they just went ahead and wrote out what they saw. You can do it that way too, as long as you've gone through and you've looked for all of these different elements. Then you have a Google Doc, which is your peer review, and you have the other person's paper open. You're going to go to, let me open the Google Doc so that we can show you how to do this. By the way, it's not important right now, but I want you to start practicing using MLA format because it's really easy, but you have to get used to it. If you open a new Google Doc, you'll see this report MLA. If you just click on that, you don't have a works cited, so you can chop that off the bottom. So it's giving you the formatting. All you have to do is fill all this out, and then put your title, and then you've got, just change the content, of course. Accidentally beef this up here. How do I get it back to the default size? You know, I do this to myself. Control minus, thank you. Bless you. You. Okay, I do that to myself all the time. This is why I need my mouse. Oh wait, this is the other side. You know how you have the share button up at the top? You want Get Shareable Link. When you get the shareable link, it's automatically changed to permission so that the other person can see it. I will tell you this. If you use the comment function in Google Docs, you have to change it to edit mode, or else neither I nor your partner can see which comment is. That's the easiest way to do the peer review, but it's the hardest way to get the other person to see it. I have given you instructions through a link in case you forget how to do this, and it will happen. Don't worry. I'll be posting the recording of this. You can always go back to the recording and review these instructions. But you will see at the bottom, no you won't, I got to put it in. I'm going to put in I'll put it here, but it's also in course resources, how to find the peer review. So when you get to this page, go down to this chart here and look for the peer reviews. And when you click on this link, you have all of these instructions on how to do it. It shows you where to find it. It shows you how to actually submit it. And ask questions. I know you need to ask questions. But do you have any, let me see, let me make sure, see the evaluation chart. These are the instructions as well. So if you need to, these are all together. You can look at this to see how to do the peer review. Okay, that was a lot of information. Do you have any questions now? I usually can tell when I've filled up the capacity there in the brain, because it's like, I'm full. Amaya, you got any questions?
No.
Okay. All right. Well, I appreciate you coming in. And Amaya, thank you for joining us. And good luck on this. I look forward to reading these. Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye.